Note, please do not harass anyone involved with this mod. I'm just here to offer my opinion and feedback for how this mod can improve. Just kidding. I'm here to destroy the hopes and dreams of everyone in the whole wide world. So there are a lot of terrible Terraria mods. Vanilla AI, stolen codes, stolen sprites, terrible ideas, etc. But there's only one mod that dared to stoop even lower. This mod went on a whole new level of bad. Used clickbait, deception, bloated content, and very unfitting sprites which may or may not be stolen. What is this mod? Well, let me tell you. Huh? Why'd you look at the title? You know that spoils the surprise. Dang it! I had an overly extravagant game show prepared for you to guess which mod it was. Now I have to put it back in the closet with the other game shows. Hey gamers, welcome back to XX_Dynascape Lover68_XX Gaming, and today we're going to be looking over the monstrosity that is Dynascape. Before we dive into this mess, let's take a look over its appearance in the mod browser to see what kind of idea we can get of this mod. Now you see here that the mod hasn't been updated in over a year. I personally believe the mod is dead, as the mod Discord is missing as well. This means the mod will never improve over its current state, which is sad. Another detail is this logo. What does it make you think of? I'll give you a few seconds. The granite biome? An accessory? What languages? Well, guess what? This logo shown here is the only time this little guy is used in the mod. It's clickbait. This mod tries to convince you that this whole mod is quality and amazing, full of good ideas with this sprite here, and it clearly is not any of that. Otherwise I wouldn't be making this video. And you might be thinking, it's just a logo, stop being so dramatic. But most small mods use items they added in their mod logo, so it wouldn't be far-fetched to say that this little guy here looks like he's from the mod. And for other mods that use actual custom logos, they don't look like they're actually in the mod. Like, come on, you're gonna look at the Calamity logo and think, oh, that must be a new item or an NPC. It's obviously not. Well, maybe we're just getting off on the wrong foot, yeah? I do that all the time. Let's look at the description. 243 items, 129 enemies, and 21 bosses. And we can already see more hints at this mod's deception and clickbait. Look at that, 21 bosses, 129 enemies, and only 243 items? Either most of the enemies and bosses drop the same items, or there's no other content outside of enemies or bosses. And neither of those are good. Before I start comparisons to other mods, I'd like to point out a small detail of deception here. This says 129 enemies, right? What in Terraria do you think of when you hear the word enemy? Green slime, blue slime, demon eye, zombie? Enemies are usually considered to be separate from bosses, but here the enemies category includes bosses. Maybe this is some kind of mistranslation. I'll give the creator the benefit of the doubt. The real counter should be 108 enemies, or the counter should say NPCs instead, to be less deceptive. Anyways, comparison time. Let's take two of the most well-known content Terraria mods, Calamity and Thorium. Take note that Calamity and Thorium have been in development for several years by many people and are still updated to this day, while Dynascape is a much smaller mod that ended development a year ago. Calamity has 24 bosses and 2,263 items as of writing the script, and Thorium has 11 bosses and 2,519 items as of writing the script. If we divide the number of items by the number of bosses, we get the following ratios, which are rounded to the nearest 10,000th. 94.2917 for Calamity, and exactly 229 for Thorium. The lower the ratio, the more boss-focused the mod is. Calamity is definitely more boss-focused than Thorium, which is why I'm showing both here to reach the whole range of normal ratios of content. Now, let's look at Dynascape. Dynascape has 243 items and 21 bosses. Dynascape's ratio turns out to be 11.5714. This is incredibly lower than both mods. And even worse for Dynascape, the average quality Terraria mod boss has 10 to 20 drops each. This includes summons, drops, and items crafted from those, expert items, masks, trophies, and so on. So if each boss in this mod had fully fleshed out drops, there wouldn't be any other content left for the mod. Don't forget the other statistic of Dynascape having 108 new enemies. So we either have a mod with only new bosses and enemies, which leaves the game feeling empty and unimpactful when not fighting modded NPCs, enemies and bosses that have almost no non-vanilla drops, or something fishy is going on here. Let's start up with what Dynascape is most infamous for, the bosses. I'm going to read off the bosses for you here, and let's see if you can notice what's wrong with them. In pre-hard mode, we have Cave Camp 2, Corius, Spencer, Scrappy, Adu, Mach, Cave Camp 3, Vexel, Cave Camp 4, Queen Ant, Crippling, and Cave Camp 5. Hard mode has Cave Camp 6, Cave Camp 7, Cave Camp 8, Cave Camp 9, Necromancer, Cave Camp 10, Cave Camp 11, and Cave Camp 12. I know what you're thinking. Where is Cave Camp 13? They hype up this whole numbers thing, but stop right before the best one. Where was I? Oh, Dynascape mod video. Bosses. Our first boss happens to be the most famous in the whole mod, Cave Camp 1. At least I think 1 is the most famous. They're all the exact same thing anyway, so it doesn't really matter which one is the most popular. Cave Camp 1 is meant to be fought before King Slime, so it shouldn't be too hard. Huh? No summon item? Luckily, Cave Camp isn't too uncommon underground, so you can find it easily. Guys, I no-hitted Cave Camp 1! I am pro gamer! No, seriously. I know King Slime is a joke, but come on. I legitimately got tired during that boss fight. Cave Camp 2? Why? Wait, maybe it's actually hard. Maybe they actually made the boss better. It's the exact same boss, but with increased stats. Why are we here? Just to suffer. Our first 5 non-Cave Camp bosses are all in between King Slime and Eye of Cthulhu, which is already a terrible sign. Like, come on, space out the time between fighting each of your mod's bosses. And would you look at that? Each of the bosses are just copy-pastes of each other. Fun and unique bosses right here, folks. Well, maybe they have really cool ways of summoning— excuse me, no summon item? Do you want people to fight the bosses in your mod or not? That's stupid. Now, this can work normally, but the spawn rate of these 5 bosses is so low. Look here, with Cheat Sheet, I set the spawn rate to 30 times speed, and still no boss. I sat here for so long, no boss. I even did a little playthrough with this mod a long time ago, still didn't get any of those bosses. Maybe the bosses don't even spawn at all. I would check the exact numbers, but there is no way to access the mod code. The GitHub is empty as well. What? Were you scared someone was gonna steal the code for Cave Camp 9? The AI of sitting there and spawning vanilla AI enemies? But that's for later. We need to talk about these 5 robot bosses right now. Now, let's look at the boss checklist here. Look closely. There's a little problem here, and I'd like you to check. Did you notice it? This mod is so lazy, they forgot to add one of their bosses to boss checklist. Let's get #JusticeForMach trending on Twitter, gosh darn it. Our first mecha boss is Corius. It very rarely spawns in the snow biome. The AI involves 2 short hops and then a tall hop, which is familiar. There are so many strategies for beating this boss that would make it an absolute joke, such as high up platforms and ropes, but I wanted to try and beat it without any of those. Still way too easy of a boss. I took no damage the whole time. Corius does not have a treasure bag and only drops mecha spirits, metal parts, 50% chance of dropping a chainsaw, and 33% chance of dropping the music box, which is not how music boxes work. Now, mecha spirits and metal parts are used for crafting random things, along with the 5 weapons of the bosses. Chainsaw, Vampire Sword, Onyx Sword, Golden Grail, and Haunted Branch. Most of these weapons have nothing to do with machines, but whatever, I guess it works. Each mecha boss has a 50% chance of dropping one of the weapons, with the one being mentioned earlier, the chainsaw. I'll talk about these items more in the items section of the video. You know what, screw this. Since the creator of this mod obviously didn't care to make any of these bosses unique except to change a couple little things, I'm doing that too. Side note, the bosses in this mod have so much health. 6,000 for a boss before Eye of Cthulhu? And you know what? After those repetitive bosses, I'm ready for a change. A change to make this mod great. Dynascape, embrace us with the best boss you've got. Cave Camp 3! As shown in the footage, I got pretty bored and decided to get close up, and I took over 70 damage. That's quite a lot for a boss right after Eye of Cthulhu, and this is with extremely high defense too. We're done with those super unique and memorable bosses. Who's next? Vexel? Can be summoned with an Echo Chorn in space? Is that what I think it is? Dynascape finally added a boss summon! It only took 8 bosses without summons before it. Maybe if we go through 72 more bosses, we'll finally unlock unique bosses! Vexel is meant to be fought after Eye of Cthulhu and before Eater World, so let's see how that turns out. So this boss is the only boss so far that actually has given me a bit of a challenge. Oh, finally they use custom AI make a good boss. No! I'll show you the real reason. Editor Breako, speed up the footage. Look at this. Harpy spam, one of the least liked enemies in the game, all up in your face, 1,000 of them. Can I have a good boss? Oh, you mean Cave Camp 4. Every time we check in with our dear friend Cave Camp, it's remained the same, but it has even more little friends that needs to stay alive. It's like being friends with a drug addict. Next boss. Please don't be Cave Camp. Please don't be Cave Camp. Please don't be a Cave Camp. Yes! Wait, if not already defeated? You can only beat this boss once? Talk about being unproud of your own bosses. For some reason, Queen Ant isn't registered as a boss on the NPC spawner? Were the Dynascape devs really so lazy they didn't even bother to put in npc.boss equals true? And when we spawn in the boss health bar doesn't even appear. If you haven't noticed yet, this boss has more health than even Master Mode Wall of Flesh. Please, stop! No more Cave Camp! Look here! Over 100 damage for a pretty hard mode boss! And this is with armor still! Even worse scaling! Woohoo! No Cave Camp! A weird little alligator crocodile thing. At least it's not Cave Camp, I first thought to myself, but then I actually fought the boss. This boss has the most of what you could call unique AI up to this point, which is sitting there spawning enemies that just jump, using some weird jumping AI which is probably stolen from somewhere, spawn evil water bolts, and then Duke Fishron Dash. I think all this AI was stolen and glued together, because the coder of this didn't even try to reset the NPC rotation after the dash. It's so easy, just npc.rotation equals 0f, but no, you were too lazy. It's time for the final pre-hard mode boss. I hope this doesn't end horribly. Cave Camp 6? No! What? I have to? Fine, fine, I'll fight it. Boring! Three more cave camps at basically the same progression. I'm gonna put up footage of me fighting all 3 of them, and they all look the same. I even used the exact same gear on all of them. Also, these hard mode bosses still drop lesser healing potions and a bunch of items that are the exact same drops as the original cave camp. Oh, maybe the player will have some use with these 5 shackles, or this item that heals 20 HP. Alright, it's time for what I consider the hardest boss in the mod. It's the last boss that isn't Cave Camp, and is actually the most interesting boss in the mod by far. And this boss is, drumroll please, Necromancer, who does not have a summon item. I don't know what the spawn rate for the Necromancer statue is, but it's probably not that high. As you'll see coming up, this boss is basically a fever dream version of Oblivion from Avalon mod. It uses Betsy, Duke Fishron, and Angry Nimbus AI. Now here's what makes the boss fight so interesting. Depending on how many times you hit the boss's difficulty ranges from a joke to post-Moonlord almost. Here in the footage I'll be showing both my easy boss fight and my post-Moonlord boss fight. Now the boss spawns versions of itself that use vanilla boss AI. Instead of using percentages, I think it uses how many times you hit the boss for whatever reason. Or maybe it's how fast you damage it. So if you have a low damage per hit, you'll be fighting the 3 mech bosses and either Enraged Plantera, possibly Enraged Duke, or both. Just use the UFO mount to despawn the Enraged Plantera if that version of Necromancer spawns. I'm getting so bored of this mod, I'll take this as something interesting. Also, for some reason, when the main Necromancer spawns his vanilla AI children, he says achievement and summoning message names, which means for once that this mod is edgy. Watch out, Calamity. Supreme Calamitous? More like Supreme Calamitrash. We stan our edgy Necromancer boy in this house. And what's the big difference between these mods anyways? They both reuse vanilla AI. The last 3 bosses in this mod are Cave Camp, Camp Cave, and Colon Cancer. I'm just gonna display all 3 battles here like last time. They're all basically the same thing but are insanely weak for their progression. Like the last Cave Camp, right before Moonlord, has 12,000 health. Why? How could you be so lazy that you don't even check if the stats are accurate to the progression? I'm so tired of the bosses in this mod, let's just get onto the items already. But wait, there's more! When you create a new character, you get an item called Boss Rush, which starts what is quite possibly the worst custom game mode I've ever seen. I actually had an idea that was extremely similar to this a long time ago, and even then, my super old coding skills were executed better than this. So when you kill a boss, there's a rare chance that a version of that boss spawns later on, but thing is, in this mod, the boss has the stats of the original boss, except some of them now take knockback for whatever reason. With them having the exact same stats, it just becomes a pain to deal with them. And they don't even drop anything interesting, just a really small portion of the original boss's associated item. Oh, thanks for the 1 hollow bar after that boss fight. Don't play this mode, it's more of an annoyance than a challenge. And why are the map icons used? They don't even fit the hitboxes. I have some unfortunate news. This mod has been diagnosed with a terminal illness I call OPABI, also known as Overpowered and Bloated Items. This mostly happens to certain mods with like less than 100 items, you know, those mods that would have sprites that look like they were made in 10 seconds. This mod has slightly more content than those mods, but at least those mods actually had some heart put into them. Definitely no skill, but some heart still. This mod, on the other hand, could have been made by an AI and I couldn't tell. At least the AI explanation explains having 12 of the same boss. And as you're gonna see soon, this mod also basically copy-pastes a lot of items. Why'd I type item twice in the script? I'm gonna go through the items in no particular order and at a very fast pace, basically just an amalgamation of my thoughts as I went through all the items in this mod in a little over 2 hours. Dynascape devs be like, hey, I have an idea. What if there were swords for the pre-hard mode ores? Why? They are basically the same thing, but they do way more damage. Basically all the weapons in this mod do way too much damage. That's not the way you get people to use your mod's items. You need to think of unique and interesting concepts, which are something this mod really lacks in a lot of places. And there's a bow variant as well. And at least the bow variants are more unique as they do low damage but shoot snot loads of arrows. And they can be combined with other items to create what is possibly the strongest and most overpowered weapon in the mod, Flux. Combined with Ichor and Holy Arrows, most enemies don't stand a chance. Even with just wooden arrows, it is way too powerful. If you didn't notice, this was the weapon I used against most of the bosses in the mod after I discovered the item. If you're gonna give it to me, I might as well use it. You can slaughter all the Dynascape bosses almost instantly, and this is a pretty hard mode weapon. Why don't I talk about the Mecha Boss drops? A great example of overpowered items. In a little bit of the footage shown earlier, you might have seen me use the Onyx Sword, which I tested out before and is extremely overpowered. But there's an even more powerful Mecha Boss drop, the Chainsaw. Look at this. A pre-hard mode boss drop does this much, and it's before Aya Cthulhu. It requires close range, but that isn't a big concern if you have a melee setup with lots of defense, especially in normal mode. To be honest, all of the Mecha Boss drops are way too powerful for pre-Eye of Cthulhu, excluding the Holy Grail, which is still very OP, but not as much. What, were the Mecha Bosses really going to be early hard mode or something? Guys, there are so many overpowered items in this mod, I can't even begin to explain it. This magic boomerang is crafted with wood. Look at these arrows, you literally need this much for just one arrow. Arrow does way too much damage, so I guess it makes sense. Same thing with this arrow, but the damage isn't even that high. Desert Staff. Ah yes, inflicts debuff. Very helpful and specific. I found this item called the Necronomicon, and I thought to myself, well, maybe this summoned some crazy secret boss or invasion and was accidentally marked with item.magic equals true. So I tried it out and... huh? Good for corruption worlds, I guess, but why no corruption variant? You can't say it wasn't added to avoid item bloat. Look at this. This mod has 4 new items crafted with the Mini Shark, creating 6 total recipes. The Mini Shark is already extremely expensive in the progression that these items are at, so this is just pure evil. And the time going from when the Mini Shark is obtainable to the time it no longer has any use is pretty massive when compared to other items, and many players want to hang on to their precious boy. One of the upgrades, the Acorn Gun, impressed me for the first time. My expectations are so low, I was impressed that the Acorn Gun actually used acorns as ammo, though the projectiles are completely broken. Its other recipes involve a bow version of the Mini Shark, which is an okay concept that wasn't executed well at all. A space gun and Mini Shark, which would be useful but is not affected by the Meteor Armor set bonus, so many players will want to stick to the space gun. And an accessory that is extraordinarily painful to upgrade. Look at this! Its final 2 upgrades, which have the exact same recipe to give you a choice, require the Mega Shark, so these items require 2 Mini Sharks. And if you want both, you'll need 4. Here's an upgrade to the Star Cannon, which could have been fun, but this just looks like a poorly resprited Demon Scythe. Here's an item that's almost good. The SMG, Slime Machine Gun. It uses gel as ammo, which is always fun to see new items that use rare ammos. Each slime stream does damage 2 to 3 times, strange addition that isn't mentioned in the tooltip. Also, the creator of this mod forgot to mark this with that beautiful rainbow rarity, since it uses the royal gel in its recipe. I probably shouldn't complain too much, as I don't think the mod gets much better than this. Oh well, good job for Dynascape, I guess. Participation trophy. 3 of the 4 throwing weapons in this mod all do the exact same thing, spawn a heckload of dust. So that's how the Dust Bowl started. Even the mushroom. It's very infamous in the mushroom community that mushrooms explode into 7 full buckets of dust. I decided to see what happens if you stack the grenades, and apparently the projectiles do actually explode after a while. I spawned Eye of Cthulhu in to test their power and wow, my game froze. You can still hear Eye of Cthulhu touch each individual grenade, which is weird. The game returns to normal after all the grenades are used or the enemy dies. The Omega grenades, which are obtainable pre-Eye of Cthulhu, absolutely decimate that Big Eye's existence, making for yet another overpowered item in the mod. As I expected, this mod has no summon items. Shame. Most small mods don't have summon items since they take much more knowledge to create, and it's very easy to tell if the item is just a copy-paste of example mod. All of the mod's tools are either not worth mentioning or are the chainsaw, which I already mentioned. The one armor set in this mod is crafted with Tedrian bars, which are dropped by Vexel, and this looks absolutely ridiculous. 911, what's your emergency? I'd like to speak to the fashion police. The individual effects aren't noteworthy, but the armor set bonus is. It severely decreases your fall speed, and if you hold up, you fall even slower, and holding down makes you fall down at normal speed. This might be really irritating to use if you can't get used to slow gravity. Cool armor set idea? Maybe not the best execution, especially in the looks category. The only placeables in this mod are a cooking pot upgrade, music boxes, and this mysterious station called a scrapper. I don't know what this does. It says it scraps items, but I can't tell how. And there are a ton of upgrades to this thing, which just seems like item bloat. Hey, Future Breako here. After a lot of looking around, I noticed this can be used to craft honey bars, which are supposed to be used to make it easier to get the other Queen Bee drops and an ammo I will mention later, but it is crafted from the Queen Bee honeycomb drop, which is just stupid. The accessories in this mod are definitely an example of pointless items. Case in point, shields. There are so many shields in this mod, it's crazy. Look at this, multiple for each ore. What, you have Shieldophilia or something? It's like the air pump of Terraria modding. There are not very many notable accessories in this mod at all. Most of them really do generic things that are basically just player.this and player.that, with some of them having too many upgrades. Whole book. Increases your max amount of minions but causes confused debuff? Is this a drug reference? Cause the last time I took drugs, I got super confused and the amount of people chasing me increased. The most interesting accessory in this mod is a combination of a bunch of lesser accessories, which is still just changing a bunch of player stats, but this is the most powerful one, so it's automatically better. Moving on. The ammo of this mod is not the best. We have the two hard to obtain arrows from earlier, Endless Star Pouch, where the word endless can also be used to describe the amount of mods that have done this already, a bullet that inflicts a debuff that only affects players, an infinite version of said bullet, a piranha arrow which does way too little damage and is spelt wrong, and that's it. Most mods don't have impressive ammo though, so I can't be too harsh on these. The only potion in this mod is the antidote, which, oh my. Still gives you potion sickness luckily, but this can still make you incredibly powerful, especially with the Philosopher's Stone equipped. While I was testing this, I randomly noticed I have this buff called Terrorized, which doesn't have a remaining time and is not going away no matter what I try, and takes away all my defense. I think this is the debuff the potion description talks about, but is much longer than 10 seconds. Am I cursed to forever have 0 defense? Maybe this is a reference to cheating on stuff, because while it benefits you in the moment, it permanently makes you weaker. I don't know, I'm just really picking at straws here, guys. Kedrine Spear? This mod actually bothered to make a spear? I can't believe... I thought this mod was done with the clickbait, come on! There aren't really any other items I wanted to mention, and there's a lot more filler content I didn't bother covering, like the enemies, and if you want to see all of it, make sure to download the mod and play it for yourself. Gotta help boost that download counter in the mod name. In all seriousness, it's sad to see how well the clickbait and deception worked, as this mod has way more downloads than most minor mods. There are minor mods with way more creative ideas, effort, and heart put into it that only get a fraction of the attention that this mod has. If you are a minor mod creator, please don't give up or turn to clickbait because of mods like this. Just keep putting your all into your mod, but make sure to take a break when you need to, because if you aren't having fun, there's no reason to keep working on it. Enough of that. Boys and girls, put on your detective glasses, because for this next part, we're going to try and investigate this dumpster fire. So basically, everyone who played this mod has a certain idea pop up in their heads. The content, whether that be the sprites, code, music, or maybe just everything. Are those stolen? Let's start with what everyone thinks of first, the sprites. Now, to mine and everyone else's surprise, these may not be stolen. I searched a bunch of sprites on reverse image search and there were no results. Honestly, I don't blame anyone for thinking they were stolen. There are so many strange decisions made for the items and NPCs in this mod that really push the idea that they must be stolen and the author just must be using what they have to work with. The unfitting art style, the very strange selections and choices of items, the already very suspicious and clickbaity mod. If the sprites aren't stolen, then the code must be, you may be thinking, and that's to say, of course! I've been complaining about how everything is stolen from vanilla AI, so yeah! It's incredibly lazy. But what about the music? There's a lot of reason to believe the music is stolen. Every single boss in the mod has music from a different composer, which is definitely not the norm in Terraria modding. I decided to search up the music on YouTube and, oh, all the composers are actually royalty-free musicians. So the music isn't technically stolen since all you need to do to use the music is to give credit. So good on you, Dynascape dev. You still made the absolute worst mod in Terraria, but you did one thing right. That's at least 2 more right things than me. I'm not going to try and make the video longer than it already is, so basically this mod is so terrible because of its vanilla AI code, unfitting sprites, unbalanced content, clickbait, and deception. So if you want your mod to be great, don't do any of that. Now that I've finished this video, I am officially a Dynascape scholar. Though I still have a few questions. What drove the creator to make such a clickbaity mod? Will the mod ever get updated again? Most importantly, where's Cave Camp 13?